Subscribe to my YouTube channel for deeply emotional, romantic, and mature stories that echo through your heart. Don't forget to like, share, and comment to support meaningful storytelling. Sarah had never believed in signs from the universe until that rainy Tuesday evening when her car broke down outside the yoga studio, and everything changed forever. At 42, Sarah Mitchell thought she had life figured out. Divorced for 3 years, she'd built a comfortable routine around her job as a high school English teacher, her evening yoga classes, and quiet weekends with her book club. She'd made peace with the idea that grand romantic gestures were for younger women, that her heart had already given all it had to give. But as she stood in the parking lot, staring at her car's dead engine while rain began to fall, Sarah felt something stirring, a strange anticipation she couldn't quite name. "Mrs. Mitchell?" The voice behind her was warm and familiar, though deeper than she remembered. "Is everything okay?" Sarah turned to find Daniel Chen standing there, car keys in hand, concern etched across features that had somehow transformed from boyish to devastatingly handsome in what felt like no time at all. He was 28 now, she realized, with a start, no longer the awkward teenager who used to help her carry groceries when she visited his mother, Linda. "Daniel." Sarah's breath caught slightly. "And my car won't start. I was just about to call for help." The rain was picking up, and Daniel quickly stepped closer, his presence both comforting and unsettling. "Let me take a look," he said, already moving toward her car. "But first, let's get you out of this rain." As he gently placed a hand on her elbow to guide her under the studio's awning, Sarah felt a jolt of electricity that had nothing to do with the storm brewing overhead. When had Linda's son become so substantial, so quietly confident? "I can't believe it's really you," Daniel said, his eyes never leaving her face. "Mum mentions you all the time, but I haven't seen you in, must be 2 years now." Sarah nodded, acutely aware of how she must look: yoga pants, hair slightly mussed from class, no makeup. "Your mother and I try to meet for coffee every month, but our schedules have been ... She trailed off, realizing she was rambling because of the way he was looking at her. There was something different in his gaze, an intensity that made her pulse quicken and her cheeks warm. This wasn't the polite interest of her best friend's son. This was something else entirely. "Sarah," he said softly, and the way her name sounded on his lips made her stomach flutter in a way she hadn't felt in years. "I've thought about you. A lot." The words hung between them like a confession, and Sarah felt the world shift slightly on its axis. "Daniel, I know what you're thinking," he interrupted gently. "I know how this must seem, but I need you to know that what I'm feeling, it's not some childhood crush. It's not because you were kind to me when I was younger." He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something subtle and masculine that made her head spin. "I'm a grown man now, Sarah. I've been waiting for the right moment to tell you how I feel." Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. This couldn't be happening. Not here, not now, not with Linda's son, her friend's boy, who had once asked her to help him with his college application essays. "This is complicated," she whispered, but even as she said it, she couldn't step away from him. "The best things usually are," Daniel replied, his voice rough with emotion. "Let me drive you home, please. We can talk." As if summoned by his words, thunder rumbled overhead, and the rain intensified. Sarah looked at her useless car, then back at Daniel's earnest face, and felt herself nodding before her rational mind could object. The drive to Sarah's house was filled with a tension, so thick it was almost tangible. Daniel's hands gripped the steering wheel with unnecessary force, and Sarah found herself stealing glances at his profile. The strong jaw, the way his dark hair fell across his forehead, the concentrated way he navigated the rain-slicked streets. Tell me about your life, Sarah said finally, desperate to break the silence. Your mother said you're working at the architecture firm downtown. Daniel nodded, seeming grateful for the safer topic. I am. Senior designer now, actually. I've been working on a project for the new community center. You know, the one they're building near the school where you teach. Really? Sarah turned in her seat to face him, genuinely interested. I didn't know you were involved in that. I specifically requested to be on that project, Daniel admitted, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. I hoped, I might run into you there, or that maybe Mom would mention it, and you'd want to see the plans. The confession hung in the air between them, and Sarah felt her chest tighten with an emotion she couldn't quite name. Daniel ... I know this is crazy, he said quickly, pulling into her driveway. I know there are a million reasons why this is a bad idea. But Sarah, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you for 2 years. Not since I saw you at Mom's birthday party, and you were wearing that blue dress, and you laughed at something Dad said. And I realized ... He turned off the engine and finally looked at her. I realized I was in love with you. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. Love. This beautiful, accomplished, younger man was talking about love. With her. I should go inside, she said. Weakly, but she made no move to leave the car. Should you? Daniel asked softly. Or should you invite me in for coffee so we can talk about this like adults? Sarah's hand was on the door handle, but she couldn't make herself pull it. Your mother is my best friend. I know. You're 14 years younger than me. I know. People will talk. I don't care about people, Daniel said fiercely. I care. About you. I care about the way you light up when you talk about your students. I care about how you take care of everyone around you but never let anyone take care of you. I care about the fact that you've convinced yourself you're too old for adventure, too old for passion, too old for love. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. She hadn't expected. Daniel, you don't understand. Then help me understand, he interrupted, reaching across the console to take her hand. The contact sent shockwaves through her entire body. Come inside with me. Talk to me. Let me make you that coffee, and tell me all the reasons why this won't work. But at least give me a chance to tell you why I think it will. Sarah looked down. At their joined hands, his so much larger than hers. Strong and warm and steady. When was the last time someone had held her hand like this? When was the last time someone had looked at her the way Daniel was looking at her now? 1 cup of coffee, she heard herself say. And then you have to go. Daniel's smile was radiant. 1 cup of coffee. Sarah's house felt different with Daniel in it. He moved through her kitchen with surprising familiarity, having been there countless times over the years for family gatherings and holiday parties. But this time was different. This time, he wasn't Linda's son helping with the dishes. He was a man in her space, making her coffee. His presence both comforting and electrifying. You changed the curtains, he observed, spooning sugar into her mug the way she liked it. How did he know how she liked her coffee? Last year, Sarah replied, settling onto her couch and trying to ignore how natural it felt to watch him move around her kitchen. The old ones were getting threadbare. I liked the old ones, Daniel said, bringing their mugs over and settling. Beside her, not too close, but close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. They were yellow with little flowers. Very ... you. Sarah stared at him in surprise. You remember my curtains? I remember everything about you, Daniel said simply. I remember that you always wear that silver bracelet your grandmother gave. I remember that you laugh with your whole body when something really amuses you. I remember that you get this little wrinkle between your eyebrows when you're concentrating, and that you always tuck your hair behind your left ear when you're nervous." As if summoned by his words, Sarah's hand automatically moved to tuck her hair behind her ear, and Daniel's smile was both gentle and victorious. "You're doing it now," he said softly. "This is insane," Sarah whispered, but she couldn't look away from him. "Maybe," Daniel agreed, "but can you honestly tell me you don't feel it too? This connection between us?" Sarah wanted to lie, wanted to protect them both from the complications this would bring. But looking into Daniel's eyes, so earnest, so full of hope and longing, she found she couldn't. "I feel it," she admitted in a voice barely above a whisper. "God help me, I feel it." But Daniel, feeling something and acting on it are two very different things. "Why?" he asked, setting down his mug and turning to face her fully. "Why can't we act on it? Because of our age difference. Because of what people might think. Because of Mom. All of those things," Sarah said desperately. "And more. You could have anyone, Daniel. Some beautiful young woman who—" "I don't want anyone else," he interrupted fiercely. "I want you. The way you are right now. I want your intelligence, your kindness, your strength. I want your laugh lines and your worry lines and every single thing that makes you who you are." Sarah felt tears spilling down her cheeks. "You don't know what you're asking." "I'm asking for a chance," Daniel said, reaching up to gently wipe away her tears. "I'm asking you to stop hiding behind excuses and tell me what you really want." The question hung in the air between them, and Sarah felt as if she was standing at the edge of a cliff, with safety behind her, and the unknown stretching out ahead. What did she want? She wanted to feel young again, desired again, alive again. She wanted to forget about being sensible and responsible and proper for once in her life. She wanted him. "I want ... Sarah began, then stopped, fear choking off the words. "Tell me," Daniel encouraged, his thumb still tracing gentle circles on her cheek. "I want to be brave," she whispered. "I want to stop being afraid of what might happen and just ... live." "Then be brave," Daniel said, his voice rough with emotion. "Be brave with me." And before Sarah could talk herself out of it, before she could list all the reasons why this was a terrible idea, she leaned forward and kissed him. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, as if they were both afraid the other might pull away. But when Daniel's arms came around her, when he deepened the kiss with a hunger that spoke of years of wanting, Sarah felt something inside her break free. This was what she'd been missing. This fire, this passion, this feeling of being utterly alive in someone's arms. Daniel kissed her like she was precious, like she was exactly what he'd been searching for all his life. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Sarah felt as if the world had shifted on its axis. "Sarah," Daniel whispered against her lips, her name like a prayer. "I know," she replied, understanding without words what he was feeling, because she was feeling it too. "I know." They sat there for a moment, foreheads touching, trying to process what had just happened between them. Sarah's practical mind was already beginning to reassert itself, listing all the complications this would bring. But her heart was singing for the first time in years. "What happens now?" she asked softly. "Now," Daniel said, pulling back to look at her, "we figure it out. Together. Your mother will have to understand that her son is in love with an amazing woman," Daniel said firmly. "Mom loves you, Sarah. She wants you to be happy. And if being with me makes you happy, it's not that simple," Sarah protested. But even as she said it, she was wondering if maybe it could be. "It doesn't have to be complicated," Daniel replied. We're two adults who care about each other. We don't have to announce it to the world tomorrow. We can take it slow. See where this goes. Sarah looked at him, this man who had somehow become the center of her universe in the space of a single evening, and felt hope blooming in her chest for the first time in years. One date, she heard herself saying. A proper date. Somewhere where we can talk and get to know each other as who we are now. Daniel's smile was radiant. One date. I know just the place. As Daniel prepared to leave, he paused at the door, his hand on the handle. Sarah, he said, turning back to her, I want you to know that tonight. Kissing. You being here with you. It's everything I've dreamed of and more. But I also want you to know that I'm not going anywhere. Whatever happens, whatever we decide, I'm not going to disappear from your life. Sarah felt her heart clench at the sincerity in his voice. Promise? Promise, Daniel said solemnly. And Sarah? Tomorrow, when you wake up and start having second thoughts, remember how you felt tonight. Remember that you deserve to be happy. You deserve to be loved. After he left, Sarah sat in her quiet house, touching her lips where Daniel had kissed her. Outside, the storm had passed, leaving the air clean and fresh with possibility. For the first time in years, Sarah Mitchell felt alive. The question was, would she be brave enough to stay that way? 3 days later, Sarah found herself standing in front of her bathroom mirror, changing her outfit for the 4th time. Daniel had asked her to meet him at a small Italian restaurant across town, somewhere they were unlikely to run into anyone they knew. The thought of seeing him again filled her with equal parts excitement and terror. In the 3 days since their kiss, she'd analyzed every moment of that evening, talked herself into and out of going on this date at least a dozen times. But every time she thought about canceling, she remembered the way Daniel had looked at her, the way he'd held her, the way he'd made her feel beautiful and desired and alive. It had been so long since she'd felt any of those things. Her phone buzzed with a text from Linda. Coffee tomorrow? I have news. Sarah's stomach dropped. News. What if Daniel had told his mother about them? What if Linda had somehow found out? Another text. This one from Daniel. Looking forward to tonight. You're going to love this place. Sarah stared at the 2 messages, her heart racing. She was about to go on a date with her best friend's son. She was about to risk everything for a man 14 years younger than her, a man who could have his pick of women his own age. But as she looked at herself in the mirror, really looked, she saw something she hadn't seen in years. She saw a woman who was still beautiful, still vibrant, still capable of inspiring passion in a good man. She saw someone worth loving. The restaurant was small and intimate, with dim lighting and candles on every table. Daniel was already there when she arrived, standing when he saw her, his face lighting up with genuine pleasure. You look beautiful, he said, pulling out her chair. Thank you, Sarah replied, feeling heat rise in her cheeks. You look pretty good yourself. And he did. Daniel wore a simple button-down shirt and dark jeans, but something about the way he carried himself, the confidence in his movements, made Sarah's pulse quicken. I wasn't sure you'd come, he admitted once they were seated. I wasn't sure either, Sarah confessed. I've been second-guessing myself for 3 days. And what convinced you? Sarah looked across the table at him, this man who had somehow become so important to her so quickly. You did. The way you looked at me the other night. The way you made me feel. I realized I'd rather risk everything than spend the rest of my life wondering, what if? Daniel reached across the table to take her hand. I'm glad you took the risk. The conversation flowed easily between them. They talked about their work, their dreams, their fears. Sarah was surprised by Daniel's depth, by his emotional intelligence, by the way he really listened to her answers. "Tell me about your divorce," he said gently as they shared dessert. Sarah hesitated. It wasn't a topic she enjoyed discussing, but something about Daniel made her want to be honest. "Mark and I married young," she said finally. "We grew apart. Over the years, wanted different things. He wanted to travel, to be spontaneous. I wanted stability, routine. By the end, we were more like roommates than spouses. Do you regret it? The divorce?" "No," Sarah said without hesitation. "I regret that we couldn't make it work, but I don't regret ending something that was making us both unhappy." Daniel nodded thoughtfully. "What do you want now? In your life? I mean..." Sarah considered the question. "I want to matter to someone. I want to feel passionate about something again. I want to stop playing it safe all the time." "And with me?" Daniel asked softly. "What do you want with me?" Sarah met his gaze directly. "I want to see where this goes. I want to be brave enough to find out." As they left the restaurant, Daniel walked her to her car, but neither of them seemed in a hurry to end the evening. "Thank you," Sarah said, as they stood beside her car. "For tonight, for the other night, for making me feel ... Feel what?" Daniel prompted when she trailed off. "Alive," Sarah whispered. "You make me feel alive." Daniel stepped closer, his hands coming up to frame her face. "You are alive, Sarah. You're vibrant and beautiful and amazing, and I can't believe how lucky I am that you're giving me a chance." When he kissed her goodnight, Sarah felt that same electric current she'd felt before, but stronger now, more certain. This wasn't just attraction or loneliness or a midlife crisis. This was something real, something worth fighting for. "I'll call you tomorrow," Daniel murmured against her lips. "I'll be waiting," Sarah replied, and meant it. As she drove home, Sarah felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in years. She was falling in love with Daniel Chen, and despite all the complications that would bring, she couldn't bring herself to regret it. But as she pulled into her driveway, she saw a familiar car parked outside her house. Linda's car. Sarah's blood ran cold. Her best friend was sitting on her front porch, and from the look on her face, she knew exactly where Sarah had been, and who she'd been with. The reckoning had come sooner than expected, and Sarah wasn't sure she was ready for it. But as she got out of her car and walked toward the porch, she squared her shoulders and held her head high. She'd found something worth fighting for. Now she'd have to prove it was worth keeping. "Hello, Linda," Sarah said quietly. Linda stood up, her expression unreadable. "Hello, Sarah. I think we need to talk." As Sarah unlocked her front door, her hands shaking slightly, she wondered if this was the end of her friendship with Linda, or the beginning of something new and honest between them. Either way, there was no going back now. What happens when Sarah faces her best friend? Will Linda accept her relationship with Daniel, or will it tear their friendship apart? Sometimes the heart wants what it wants, but the cost of following it can be higher than we ever imagined.